Hey, it's you, man, from KC95 here. Good evening and welcome to Toasted Tavern. Your host, Scott Tobin, and the man called Wags are ready to bring you the night in sports. So pull up a stool, grab a drink, and let's get toasted.
Good evening and welcome into Toasted Tavern. I am Wags, joined alongside by Scott Tobin, and we are back live after a fun week off, I would say, at least for me. I got a chance to spend some time in good old Las Vegas, lost some money, saw some boobs, and pretty much just had a good time. So I'm back, and Scott is back as well after spending a lot of time at the ballpark this past week. We saw some highs, we saw some lows with the Cardinals, and honestly, a week after we were on live last, the Cardinals are roughly in the same spot that they were when we left them. Not necessarily that being a good thing, but they have a chance this week to kind of maybe rectify that as well. But before we get into that, Scott, man, how are you doing? It's been a week since I've seen you. We've talked a lot, but through Messenger, this is the first time I've seen your face in a while. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Not the best week at Busch, like you said. Definitely didn't have the results that we were hoping for. But let's talk a little bit more about your trip to Vegas. How? What were the highlights of that trip?
The highlights, honestly, was just the views themselves. I mean, just being able to walk up and down the strip at night, seeing the lights. We went to Fremont Street one night, and you got to see the whole light show on the arch up top there. That was a lot of fun. But really just being able to set foot in all the casinos that you see on TV. You've seen with, for me, the World Series of Poker, being able to go into Binion's and being able to go into Harrah's and all that was really, really fun. I did get a chance to catch my first burlesque show. That was an interesting experience, to say the least. Definitely fun. Definitely a lot of fun, but something I'd never experienced before. It was a lot of fun, but just being able to spend some time with my brother and his wife and just being able to relax and kind of take my mind off of things was really, really nice. We also got a chance to do a rail exploration. We got to go to just outside of the city limits to Boulder City, and we got to ride a pedal train, essentially, down some old railroad tracks for a good stretch, and then we actually came back on an old-fashioned train. That was a lot of fun as well. It kind of broke up the whole gambling Vegas style trip, so it was nice to do that as well. But overall, just a really fun trip. Flights weren't delayed. They were good. Everything kind of went according to plan, which was really, really nice. I got a chance to eat some really good food, too.
That's good, man. Glad you had a good time. Did you get to check out Allegiant Stadium at all while you were out there?
Yeah, we drove past it a couple of different times. Didn't get a chance to go in. We also stopped by T-Mobile Arena as well, where Vegas was at. But I tell you what, that Allegiant Stadium, holy moly, in person, it's just as impressive and intimidating and futuristic as you see on TV.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. My brother and sister-in-law were out there a couple of months ago. She's a huge Raider fan, and they actually went and took the tour, and they were pretty impressed.
Yeah, it was incredible, and you just hope that the Raiders are able to put something good on the field this year for the fans of Vegas. We'll see. It's a tough division, but we'll actually be doing our NFL preview here in a couple of weeks as we get closer and closer to the season. Actually, just about 2 short weeks away from opening night, so we'll have that coming up sometime probably next week or at the beginning of the following week, kind of giving you our preview of the NFL and the different divisions. So excited for that. Cannot wait to see what that looks like. But let's get into the Cardinals, because it is right now pretty much the only thing going on as far as the city of St. Louis is concerned. And, the week was okay. It wasn't great. Just 2 wins out of the 6 games played. Milwaukee obviously was going to be a tough out. I feel the games against Milwaukee were pretty good for the most part, just didn't go the Cardinals' way. But then you got that Pittsburgh series over the weekend, and it didn't start off well, and the weekend just really went downhill until you got to Wainwright.
Yeah, going back to the Milwaukee series real quick, that was a really well-played series. You look at that series, and either team could have swept that series. The Cardinals definitely should have won 2 out of 3. They blew that second game. Alex Reyes had a little issue. But, and Nolan Arenado got kicked out of that game, which then hurt them defensively. But they could have easily won, like I said, 2 or 3 out of that series. And then the Pittsburgh series, the first game, yeah, that was frustrating because you had, I think, 12 hits and you don't score. 11 singles. It's hard to, put a whole lot together when you're singling people to death. Then the second game, they had chances to win that. They took the lead, and then Lars Newbar basically made 3 errors on 2 plays in a row that allowed a couple of runs to score. So, they could have won that game as well. And then, You have old Uncle Charlie yesterday who rights the ship as always. And now you get ready. Everybody's looked at the next couple of days and said, oh, you got Detroit and Pittsburgh. But I don't know if people are paying attention. The Tigers are playing pretty good baseball. They are not they're not going to be easy to beat. And Cardinals had a hard time beating them a couple of months ago when they were easier to beat. So that's no guarantee. And then you go to Pittsburgh where you should be able to win. They've played really well in Pittsburgh. And then you get into the real part of your schedule because you've got the Brewers and the Dodgers and those guys coming. So the next couple of weeks is going to be a real test for the Cardinals.
It really is. I mean, after this week, you get into really the heart of the rest of the schedule. I mean, every team outside of probably the Mets are teams that you're either chasing or trying to hold off. I mean, they got a couple games against the Phillies and things of that nature. So really, if they don't take care of business this week, it could make those games basically moot. But if they go out there and they do what they need to do and stay within range of teams like the Reds and the Padres, the end of the season could be a sprint for that last wild card spot, because you saw the Padres are starting to fall off. They fired their pitching coach today. That never bodes well when you're 5 weeks away from the end of the season and you're still competing for a playoff spot. The Reds have gotten hot. They did overtake the Padres for that second wild card spot. But once again, you've got 6 games against them coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So another opportunity to basically put yourself into that position by beating them. And you still got those games against the Brewers. Don't think you're going to catch them for first place, but getting wins in those games is still going to be important because it will keep pace with the other teams that you're chasing as well. So they have to take advantage and take care of the Tigers and the Pirates this week. But like you said, the Tigers are playing well. Miguel Cabrera just hit his 500th home run the other day. So it's not like they're going to go down easy. It's going to be a fight. And Detroit always seems to play us well, especially after, 06 when we beat them, which is awesome. But it's going to be tough. And I guess really when you look at it, what do you think the key to this week is going to be? I mean, obviously it's going to be beating these teams, but is there one piece that you're looking at that you have to sit there and go, you have to win this in order to win these series?
Your offense has to be consistent. That's what it all boils down to. You have to have consistent offense to win games. And, the Cardinals offense just is not consistent. You look up and down. The only guy that you really look at and go, holy cow, that guy's just on fire is Paul Goldschmidt. I mean, when you see what Goldschmidt's done, remember it wasn't too long ago everybody was freaking out because Goldie was hitting like 240. The guy's in the 280s now. His slugging percentage is up. His OBP is up. I mean, he's the Paul Goldschmidt that everybody was looking for. He's got 72 RBIs now, hitting in the second spot most of the season. He's going to get close to 100 RBIs hitting second without a real leadoff man on this team. So it just tells you, how dangerous Paul Goldschmidt still is. The guy that's got to figure it out, just because it's been really frustrating to watch, is Nolan Arenado. He looks lost at the plate. He has for a couple of months. He's taking pitches right down the middle. He's spinning away from pitches on the inside part of the plate. He's swinging at pitches in the dirt. I mean, he was 2 for 17 in this Pirate series with 6 strikeouts. He had one decent game in the Milwaukee series. But, other than that Kansas City weekend last weekend, he's really struggled since the middle of June in a lot of ways. He just really has not. He's going to have a good year. He's going to put up good numbers, but I don't think he's been the force that we thought he was going to be this year. And part of that is, and I'm sorry, I know you're getting ready to say something. I think part of that is the fact that new team, all that pressure, all those things that we talked about. I think he'll have a better year next year. And like I said, while I say he's not having a great year, he's still going to have 30 home runs and 100 RBIs. So it's not like he's been awful, but he's not the Nolan Arenado that we were expecting.
And I was just about to say the exact same thing. I mean, how many times have we seen this? And a guy comes into an organization either on a big-time contract or after a big-time trade. He wants to prove himself to the fans and to the organization that they made the right move, they made the right signing, and there's the pressing piece that comes into it. And yes, he started off the season pretty well, and I think people were like, oh, well, that means he's going to be great all year. But you have to remember that pressure is there, especially in the back of their mind. It's not necessarily the pressure being put on by the organization or the fans. It's the pressure that they are putting on themselves in the back of their mind that I have to do so much in order to prove I'm worth being here. And I bet you you could probably go out and ask any Cardinal fan out there, I mean, at least the sane ones, that if you were to sit there and say, hey, if there's one thing you could tell Nolan Arenado about what you're feeling right now, I bet you most of them would say, Nolan, it's okay. We know what you can do. Just go out there and play your game. You don't have to push so hard. I think the rational fans would say that. Now, the Cardinals, among other teams, have a lot of irrational fans, and they're going to be upset about what he's been doing. And people there, even in the smallest corners of this, I've heard people are like, oh, we should just let him opt out and go away. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? But that's the thing. You have to remember, first year is going to be tough. You have to acclimate to the team. You have to acclimate to the city. You have to acclimate to the coaching staff. So there's a lot of things. We saw this last year with Goldschmidt as well. It took a little while for him to kind of get into his rhythm and get comfortable. And then he's blowing up this year. Well, like you said, Nolan next year, watch out. But here's the one thing that you have to remember. And like you said, he's going to hit somewhere near 30 home runs. Guess what? Not a single one of them is at Coors Field. So tell me what the splits were again and why we should not have brought in Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, no, he's done pretty well. There's a lot of people that are going to say, well, he's not putting up the numbers that he would have put up in Colorado. Well, is he going to hit as many home runs in Busch Stadium as he did in Colorado? No, but he's leading the league in doubles. He's still hitting, even though I say, he's not done what we expect, he's still hitting something like 340 with runners in scoring position this year. So he is producing. We just had super high expectations for him. And a lot of it is, don't think for a second that he's not feeling the pressure of this offense being inconsistent and trying to put all of that on his shoulders as well. And Goldie's done that a lot of the year too. They've tried to do more than they're capable of. But, the Cardinals still need to add that one more bat. It doesn't have to be a superstar, but you need another solid bat, because as good as Tyler O'Neill has been this year, he's not a 4 or 5. Tyler O'Neill's your perfect 6 hitter. And another thing too that we have to look at is that, and Nolan has said this a couple of times, he's more comfortable hitting 4th. Well, Schultz had him hitting 3rd most of the year because of the way this lineup is constructed right now. So if you can fix that lineup and get him back into that 4 hole where he's more comfortable all the time next year, you get another bat to hit behind him, and then you have O'Neill. I think this lineup really takes shape, and I think you see the best of Nolan Arenado next year.
So let's jump into that real quick, because there is a topic that went down today on local radio about a potential guy that could come in here. And you really want to gauge the interest on if he is somebody that the Cardinals should even look at. We've talked in the past about upgrading the shortstop position. Well, there's going to be a guy that used to play up north, who's now playing a little bit further north, that could possibly be looking to sign a 1-year bridge deal to kind of boost his stock a little bit. And he's pretty familiar here in St. Louis. We hate him right now until he signs with us possibly. But what do you think about bringing in a guy like Javi Baez to see if he can come in and have a prove-it year to at least solidify that shortstop position and maybe give you that power in the middle of the lineup? Yeah, he strikes out a lot, but maybe working with this coaching staff and the fact that they don't make contact, well, that probably won't help at all, will it?
No, the only way I do that is if his market just crashes. If nobody's coming along, I'm not giving Javi Baez 2 or 3 years. I'm not giving him $50 or $60 million. The only way I would do that if it's a 1-year deal, and you're giving him $15 million. It's the only way I'm doing it, because he's not going to hit for the numbers. He's going to hit 220 or 230. He's going to strike out 160 times, and he's going to be playing in Busch Stadium as opposed to Wrigley Field, which, he's not going to hit nearly the home runs that he does in Chicago. So all of those things are things that we have to look at. And, I'm not doing it, like I said, unless his market just crashes.
Yeah, and I don't see that being the case. I think there's a lot of teams out there that would probably really want to have a Javi Baez on their team and will probably give him an ungodly amount of money.
I don't know that there is. I don't know. I don't think Javi Baez is going to get what he thinks he's going to get. I think he's going to have to take a short-term deal. I don't think he's going to get $100 million. I really don't. I think he's going to get 2 or 3 years at the most, and $50 or $60 million. And he may not get that just because he's not been very good the last couple of years.
So what do you think the percentages are that his market does crash? I mean, is it one of those where you're looking at a 70-30 split where, there's a 70% chance he'll get that 2 to 3 year deal and a 30% chance he's going to have to take a 1, or is it closer or further apart than that in your mind?
I think it's probably 60-40. I mean, there's so many things that we don't know about this offseason. You got the collective bargaining thing. Our team's going to be willing to spend money this offseason. Maybe not. And then you got to look at the shortstop market too. There's so many shortstops that are going to be out there, and there's only so many teams that really need one. And Baez can play second or he can play third. You could move him around, But I'm just not sure that there are going to be a lot of teams that have the interest in a guy, like we said, that might strike out 200 times and, hit 220. I mean, I'm just not sure that there's going to be that big of a market there for him.
It's definitely an interesting study to watch, and this offseason is going to be pretty intense one way or the other, at least for Cardinals fans. But let's jump back to the here and now, because we talked a little bit about it a little while ago. But Uncle Charlie, Adam Wainwright, another beautiful gem. Yes, it's against the Pirates, but he seems to own the Pirates this year. But he's had a great year overall. And I saw a question the other day on Twitter, and more so along the lines of a statement, really. But if Waino goes out there and he's got about 4 or 5 more starts this year, and if he can go out there and win 4 of those starts, does he get Cy Young consideration this year?
Probably not. I mean, as much as he probably deserves it, I doubt it. There's a lot of people that aren't even paying attention to Adam Wainwright nationally because the Cardinals haven't been very good, and then have written him off. And there's so many pitchers out there that are younger. I seriously doubt that he gets any consideration, honestly.
That's really sad because he's putting together a hell of a season for a 40-year-old or almost 40-year-old. Sorry, it's not his birthday just yet, but he'll be 40 very, very soon. And the fact that he isn't getting any love for the Cy Young, because, I mean, you look at it and in my mind, I don't see anybody out there this year that's been just incredibly dominant that you could sit there and peg this guy as the Cy Young. I mean, yes, Max Scherzer's had his moments. You've got a couple pitchers up in New York that have done well as well. But, I mean, in your mind, who out there has been showing you enough to put them near the top of that Cy Young race?
It's probably going to go, if I had to guess, just because of where he is and his name, I would assume it's going to be Walker Buehler. That would be my guess. And the thing working against Adam Wainwright, the thing that works against Adam Wainwright is that everybody looks at metrics and swing and miss rate and velocity and all the things that he doesn't do, and people don't just pay attention to pitchers anymore. And so I think that's really going to hurt him. I agree with you. I think it's awful. I think he should definitely be in the Hall of Fame or in the Cy Young discussion. But I heard there was a conversation. They had a national reporter on one of the local stations this week. And somebody said, with the last couple of years that Wainwright's put up, and if he pitches really good, do you think there's any chance that he could be in consideration for the Hall of Fame at some point? And this just goes to show how the national media doesn't care about St. Louis. The guy basically laughed it off and said, if there was a hall of pretty good, Adam Wainwright doesn't even deserve to be in there.
I mean, I know we've got cardinal colored glasses on, but that's just asinine.
But it just goes back to the national perception. And this same guy basically said the Cardinals have no talent and they're years away from being able to compete because all they have is Goldschmidt and Arenado and Dylan Carlson at best. He basically said at best he saw Dylan Carlson being a league average player, and he was their third best player. So, I mean, there's a lot of national media that looks at this team and just doesn't give them any credit. He said he wouldn't consider Jack Flaherty an ace. He's pretty good, but he'd consider him more a 2 or a 3. I mean, he just basically shredded everything about the Cardinals. And there's a lot of national people that look at that and, just don't respect the Cardinals.
I mean, I can see that. I totally understand it. I mean, it's a winning franchise for so long, and they've done things a little bit differently than what people expect. And I get the hatred towards the Cardinals, but you still have to look at it objectively. And we try our best here. I know we are fans. We definitely probably give them a little bit more credit or a little bit more than maybe they deserve. But I mean, you still have to look at it objectively and say, Wainwright's having one of the best years of his career at almost 40. Yes, he's not up there with the Walker Buehlers or the Zach Wheelers or Corbin Burns of the league, but for his age and what he's doing, it's pretty impressive. Now, yeah, he's not going to have the numbers. I mean, you look at guys like, like I said, Burns is at a 2.13 ERA, second in the league. You've got Zach Wheeler with the 5th best ERA at 2.56. Adams at just over 3. So it's not like he's close, but once again, if he can go out there and pitch a couple more games, giving up 1 or no runs, all of a sudden that ERA does drop into that, high 2s, maybe mid 2s. And he's going to be up there in wins as well. He might fight his way into getting a couple of votes, but I think you're right. I think too many people are looking at the East and West coasts. And once again, it's to the detriment of the Midwest.
Well, and again, things that hurt him. The stats that he's putting up, a lot of the analytics people don't recognize those or don't put much value into. I mean, you talked about wins. He's right there among the league leaders in wins, but a lot of those guys don't consider wins important for starting pitchers, which makes absolutely zero sense to me. And then the other thing that he does consistently is pitch deep into games and give you innings, except a lot of the analytics guys don't like that either because they think it's smarter to only have your starting pitcher pitch 5 times because analytics tells you there's less of a chance of him getting hit, which, anybody that understands baseball knows that that's hard on your bullpen. And, there's a lot of value to a starter going deep. But all of those things not being valued the way they used to be all go against Adam Wainwright. I mean, he's an old school pitcher. Like Mike Schilt compared him to this generation's Bob Gibson. In a lot of ways, he goes right in that mold, much like Chris Carpenter did for all those years.
Yeah, very true. And I've just kind of been searching, Cy Young stuff here, and I'm looking at ESPN. They have a Cy Young predictor, and I believe it's pretty current. They've got Walker Buehler up at the top, followed by Kevin Gausman, Josh Hader, Mark Melancon, Jake McGee. Well, guess who's sitting there at number 8 on the National League Cy Young predictor?
Who would that be?
Alex Reyes.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, looking at it, you've got in the top 10, you've got 4 relief pitchers in the top 10 in their Cy Young predictor.
That makes zero sense to me to have him or Hader in there. And yes, I know that there have been closers that have won the Cy Young. Dennis Eckersley did it. But, those guys, the years that Eckersley did it and some of those guys did it, I mean, they had 50-plus saves. And I think the year that Eck won it, his ERA was like 0.4. So, I mean, it was just unbelievable. Nobody could touch him. There's nobody closing in baseball this year that is having that kind of season or is that dominant. I mean, as much as I love Alex Reyes, and I think he's going to be a phenomenal pitcher, the guy's got like the worst walk rate in baseball and one of the worst walk rates in the history of baseball per 9 innings. So, to have him in there is crazy. And Hader doesn't pitch enough. I mean, they're throwing 40 innings, 50 innings. I mean, that's just crazy to me.
Well, here's the way they figure out their Cy Young points. It's 5 innings pitched divided by 9, or 5+ innings pitched divided by 9 minus earned runs, plus strikeouts per 12 innings, plus saves times 2.5, plus shutouts, plus wins times 6 minus losses times 2, plus victory bonus, a 12-point bonus awarded for leading your team to the division championship. So having that in there as well, generally a starter is probably going to end up winning that. But I mean, I guess that's why there are a lot of relief pitchers in there, because you got the saves times 2.5 that adds into it. Obviously, your wins and losses are going to be a little bit more magnified as well as potentially your strikeouts too. But yeah, it's baffling when you don't have an absolute dominant closer like an Eck that is just blowing people away. I mean, even the year that Eric Gagne set, and then even Trevor Hoffman, when they set the save records, I don't even think they were in the Cy Young conversations those years. So you could have a record-breaking season as a closer and still not get into the Cy Young. Yet you're sitting here with 4 of the top 10 predicted Cy Young outcomes being relief pitchers.
So if that's how they're figuring it, and they're going with strikeouts and they're going with all of that stuff, how does a guy like Jack Flaherty, who's 9-1, not figure into that?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. I wonder if he's ineligible because of innings.
But, he's throwing more innings than Alex Reyes has.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
It makes absolutely no sense. It really doesn't. And I feel like it almost feels like they're trying to manipulate it to make it biased towards the East and West Coast or things of that nature. But that's a whole nother argument for a whole nother day.
Well, and like you said, there just aren't a whole lot of really good starter pitchers this year. I mean, you got, Jacob deGrom, the Mets shut down today for the rest of the season. So, you're missing deGrom, you're missing Syndergaard, you're missing Steven Strasburg, you're missing, Clayton Kershaw is not what he was and has been hurt a couple of times. Trevor Bauer, obviously, all of that. And then guys that would normally be in there, Castillo in Cincinnati or Flaherty, some of these guys have had down years. And then all the pitching that the Padres went and got, they all suck. So, there's just not a really good starting pitching group in the National League this year.
That's very, very true. Nobody's absolutely been dominant. Maybe outside of Walker Buehler, but that is what it is. So, all right, let's jump over to the NFL because we posed a question a couple days ago about this upcoming season. We were talking about some of the running backs. Who do you believe is going to have the best year at running back? We put out there you have Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, and Ezekiel Elliott. Well, just to kind of give you a little bit of backstory on all these guys, Derrick Henry, 2 consecutive years leading the league in carries, yards, and touchdowns. He's been pretty consistent, too. He's only missed 2 regular season games in his career. Now, granted, that could be setting him up for a massive injury this year and something that could just wreck fantasy teams. So we'll see how that goes. You got Nick Chubb, who had his first double-digit touchdown season in his first 3 years last year. He did miss 4 games this past season due to injury, but we'll likely see him at full strength this year. Christian McCaffrey missed time last year due to injury. He only played in 3 games, but he still managed 5 touchdowns in those games, and he has increased his touches, yards, and touchdowns each year in the league, so you can see a progression there. Alvin Kamara, the dual threat of this group, 932 yards rushing, 756 yards receiving last year. He led the league in 21 combined touchdowns between receiving and rushing last year. You got Ezekiel Elliott. He's really been a workhorse for the Cowboys, but he's kind of had a bit of a decline in the last 2 seasons, mostly due to the offensive line instability there in Dallas. And the really crazy thing that I saw with him was he's only had 2 seasons with double-digit touchdowns. And he's led the league twice in rushing, but only one of those seasons was he at double-digit touchdowns as well. He has stayed relatively healthy, but I kind of look at it, and he maybe has played hurt a little bit in his career as well. And then you look at Dalvin Cook. And for me, he's a guy that kind of gets lost in the shuffle talking about these great backs. He's increased his touches, yards, and touchdowns each year. And just like Kamara, he can catch the ball out of the backfield. Now, he's not putting up massive numbers, but he's still putting up 1,000-yard seasons. So I think he's a guy that kind of gets lost in the shuffle of things. And, as much as I want to go for a Derrick Henry or for a Christian McCaffrey, I'm going to go with the dark horse here, and I think Dalvin Cook may have the best season this year. He might be ready for that ultimate breakout, and he may have to because he may have to carry that Vikings team. They've got some good receivers, but you still got Kirk Cousins at quarterback. I don't know, though. Well, Scott, what do you think?
You know what? The guy that is probably going to have to work the hardest this year and may end up having the best numbers because he's going to have to do so much is Alvin Kamara, because you don't have Drew Brees. Michael Thomas, you don't know if he's going to be there or if he's going to play if he is in New Orleans. So Kamara might be the guy that has to really put up the biggest numbers. I think the guy that leads the league in rushing yards is going to be Nick Chubb. And I know you have Kareem Hunt there, but if Chubb doesn't miss those 4 games, he would have done it last year. He was on that kind of pace. I think Chubb has the best year running wise. And then I think Kamara probably overall, because I think he's going to have to catch a ton of balls as well. Plus, he's going to have to run more, too, because they don't know what their quarterback situation is like in New Orleans either yet.
No, I mean, watching the game tonight between the Saints and Jags, Jameis Winston looked pretty good. And, yes, it's going against Jacksonville, so you got to take that for what it's worth. But he did look good tonight. He connected with a new wide receiver out there for a couple touchdowns in the first quarter. Once again, they're playing the Jags, so you can't take too much stock into it. But I think he'll probably end up getting the call, and you're right. He'll probably end up checking down to Kamara a lot or handing the ball off to him just in case, because you don't know what Michael Thomas is going to do this year. So, yeah, I could definitely see that being the case. Now, you look at the flip side of this game with Jacksonville, and they're looking at Trevor Lawrence. They're looking at Gardner Minshew. They got Travis Etienne there. They have not looked good. Especially tonight. They look lost. You got Urban Meyer in his first year in the NFL, so you can expect a little bit of, I guess, backpedaling, not looking so good this year. But I don't see anything positive so far in Jacksonville that makes me think that this could be a good team even in a couple of years.
I think they're going to be a good team in a couple of years because Trevor Lawrence is going to be a good quarterback. Travis Etienne's going to put up good numbers. They've got a couple of young wide receivers that have potential. And, there's still a lot of talk that Michael Thomas could end up in Jacksonville, that could be the trade partner where he goes. It's going to be a process. Jacksonville's it's going to take a while, 2 or 3 years before they're really competitive. But you also have to look at the division they're playing in. That's not the strongest division in the world either. So I think they're going to have a bright future, but it is going to take a while.
See, and I'm one of those people that, I always wish the best. I hope I want to see guys succeed. I still don't see the appeal or the future of Trevor Lawrence. I really don't. I mean, I I will probably be way off base, and he probably will go out and have a great career. He did amazing things at Clemson, but I can't see success for him in the future. I look at him as being another, and I don't, the comparison isn't awesome because I don't think they are the same type of player, but I just see a Tim Tebow all over again. I really do. And I like I said, I'm probably missing something. I will fully admit when he is a MVP quarterback in 2 years and he's leading the Jags to multiple playoff runs. But for right now, I've never seen why Trevor Lawrence was as high a pick as he is and why people are so high on him.
Because he's a winner. Because he's never he's won it. He won state championships in high school. He won in Pee Wee, and trust me, he's got way more talent than Tim Tebow ever had as a quarterback. Tebow couldn't throw the ball.
Oh
ever.
no.
Trevor Lawrence has an unbelievable arm when he has to. He can run, which Tebow could, and he's just a natural leader. He's a winner, and Tebow just didn't have most of those things. Tebow really wasn't as much credit as he wants. Tebow really wasn't a great leader either. When it comes right down to it, I mean, he had a ton of talent around him in Florida, but it didn't really translate because everybody knew that he really didn't have that talent. Trevor Lawrence is going to have a good career. Like I said, it's going to take a little while, because he's playing with less talent than he had in Clemson right now. So it's going to take a couple of years, but he's going to be good.
I mean, if you give him Michael Thomas and he's able to turn around and hand off to a guy in ATN that he's familiar with, yeah, it's very, very possible that is a successful combination right there. Like I said, I'll probably be wrong. He'll probably turn out to be really, really good. I just can't see it yet. And it's just how I feel. And we'll see. I will definitely be rooting for him. I don't want to see him fail. I hope he does have great success, just like every young quarterback out there. Even the Jets quarterback, you feel sorry for the Jets quarterback, Zach Wilson. Sorry, but he did look good this past weekend. He's got a strong arm. I think he's got some talent there. What did you see out of Zach Wilson? Do you think he's going to find success in New York?
Again, it's going to take a while. I mean, everybody that's watched him in training camp and in the preseason has raved about him. He's going to struggle because that Jets team is not good. But I think he's got talent. If he can get through the next couple of years and not get torn apart, still be upright, I think he's got a bright future. The kid that I want to talk about real quick, and I'm sure he's going to watch his mouth on things he says about the NFL. Justin Fields is lucky that he's able to play football again because he almost got killed the other day.
Yeah, I finally saw that hit today, and oh my gosh, did he get blown up? And yes, there was a flag on the play because it was a shot to the head. His helmet popped off. It was very, very violent. But, I mean, you're a rookie. You got to look out for those kinds of things. And I can't remember, did he say before or after the game about how the game was slow for him?
Yeah, it was after their first preseason game. He talked about how easy it was and how the game moved slow and how prepared he was. And don't think for a second that hit wasn't intentional and it wasn't meant to be violent and it wasn't meant to rip his head out. That was a message. And it won't be the only one. He's going to have that happen to him again and again until he gets it that he's a rookie and he needs to keep his mouth shut because he hasn't shown anybody anything at this point.
And he thinks, Andy Dalton's there, that he's going to end up winning the starting job and be the starter for the Bears right off the bat. It is Andy Dalton, so, I mean, you never know. But, I mean, if the Bears are smart, which I don't know if they are or not, you got to sit Fields at least for a little bit. Let him learn under the tutelage of a guy like Dalton and even a Nick Foles if he's still there. Give him that ability to kind of work himself into it versus just throwing him out there. Because like you said, teams are gonna try and send messages to him. That's a bulletin board piece of tape right there. Oh, it's slow to me. It's slower than it was in college. That's your defensive line is going to be chopping at the bit to try and lay a lick on him, and everybody's going to be fired up to play against him if he's out there week one. So yeah, you're right. He needs to watch his mouth. He needs to settle in and learn as much as he possibly can, and just take his licks when he gets them. And like you said, just shut up right now.
Yeah, and if the Bears are smart, he won't play week one because week one is against the Rams. And don't think for a second that Aaron Donald's not looking at that going, game's slow, huh? Doesn't move fast? Watch this.
What's the record for sacks in a game?
Yeah.
Aaron Donald would probably break it against the Bears if Justin Fields plays.
Yeah. And from everything Matt Nagy has said, he's not going to play. He said repeatedly that Andy Dalton is the starter, and I know Bears fans are upset about that. What Bears fans are even more upset about is the fact that the Bears played the Bills this past weekend, and Mitch Football got some revenge and just absolutely lit them up and looked like a Pro Bowler, which is pretty funny to me.
I mean, you could see it coming. I mean, how even as a Bears fan, you probably saw it coming because everything that went down in Chicago, it set it up perfectly. And I made this argument. I made this argument to my brother when we were in Vegas. I was like, I'm a Trubisky fan. I am. I'm a Trubisky fanboy. I think he got the raw end of the stick in Chicago. Yes, he went to North Carolina. It's one of my favorite colleges. I love the Tar Heels. So maybe there's a little bit of that in me. But outside of Allen Robinson, who did you give him? Who did you give Trubisky to throw to hand the ball off to protect him in the pocket? Yes, he has, 12 games of college experience, so he had a lot to learn, and he was drafted in the same class as Mahomes and Watson. There was a lot of pressure on him. But honestly, what did they give him to succeed? Now you go out to Buffalo, and you look what he's got up there. He's got an offensive line that will protect him. He's got a running back in Singletary that'll do wonders, and he's got receivers to throw to. Yes, he's not going to be the starter, but he's definitely the perfect complement to Josh Allen up there that if he goes in, he's going to be successful. He could revitalize his career there. I think he's going to be super successful up in Buffalo, and Bears fans are going to be like, well, wait a second. Maybe it wasn't Mitch per se. Maybe it was the team itself.
Oh, they're already doing that. It was funny reading Bears fans. They're already like, we made a mistake. It wasn't Trubisky's fault. It was Nagy. It was horrible play calling. We never should have let him leave. What do we do? Yeah. So, yeah, it's already started. So if Justin Fields struggles, there'll be a lot of talk there in Chicago.
Well, the pitchforks came out for Fields in his first preseason game when he started off slow. There were people that were bashing him after his first series. Like, come on. I know it's been a struggle for Bears fans, but it's a half a preseason game at that point.
Yeah. But they just haven't had good quarterback play in a long time in Chicago.
That they have not. A place where they do have good quarterback play is over in Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes is back from his toe injury that he suffered last year. And just watching the game against Arizona the other night, he looks to be back into shape. He looks like he's able to make his cuts and kind of scramble the way he wants to. Granted, he did throw an interception to end his night on Friday, but still looks pretty good. Had some pretty good numbers against the Cardinals. He was 10 of 18, 78 yards. But really what it comes down to is Patrick Mahomes able to move in the pocket and rush and make people miss? And in that game, he did that and showed me he's ready to go. And I don't know if I would sit there and say the Chiefs are the absolute favorites in the AFC, but they're one of the 2 or 3 top teams in that conference.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see when the regular season starts what their offense looks like because every team in the league, all offseason has been studying what the 49ers did. I mean, the 49ers, that was 2 years ago. What Tampa did in the Super Bowl defensively to shut them down and make them ineffective. So it's going to be interesting to see how defenses game plan them when the regular season starts and how Kansas City makes adjustments and sees if they're able to score like they were or if defenses are starting to catch up with that offense.
Yeah, the case study is going to be right there. I mean, Tampa Bay really shut them down. And, yeah, you can sit there and say the injury to Mahomes maybe had a part to play in it, but I still think Tampa had a great game plan going into that. And you look at the teams that Kansas City is now competing with. You've got Buffalo. You've got Cleveland. I mean, those teams are built to play against Kansas City. They can score with them offensively. They've got a tough defense. Their special teams are really good as well. So unlike the last couple of years where it was the Chiefs and kind of everybody else, the Chiefs have kind of come back to the pack. And now you've got 3, 4, 5 teams that legitimately have a chance to come out of the AFC. And I think I know where your heart lies, but where does your mind say the Chiefs end up at when playoff times roll around?
If I had to guess, I would say they're probably in the AFC Championship game. Honestly, and I know people are going to be like, did he really just say that? I think it's probably going to be the Browns and the Chiefs. If you look at the talent on those two teams, with everything the Browns did in the draft and in free agency to improve their defense, getting Odell Beckham back, and by all accounts, he looks amazing as well. I think it's going to be those two teams because I think they match up really well. Both teams have a ton of weapons on offense. Both teams are going to be pretty good defensively. So I think that's what it comes down to, and it may come down to whether that game is in Cleveland or in Kansas City as to who goes out of the AFC.
So are you saying week 1 may have a huge impact on how the season ends up?
It really could. It really could. That week 1 in Kansas City is going to be very, very entertaining.
That it is. And one final note in the NFL, I just want to get your thoughts on what's going on up in New England. Obviously, Cam Newton is the starter there for now. He's going to miss the next 5 days because he had to go out of town to get some rehab, ended up taking his COVID test out of state, now has to sit for 5 days before rejoining Patriots practice. Mac Jones has looked pretty good for New England. He's definitely a Bill Belichick guy. He's going to probably be the future there in New England. The real question is, how soon will he be New England's answer? I mean, is this something that Cam Newton may end up not starting the season as a starter, or is there going to be a quick hook on Cam just if he struggles?
Cam will be the starter. I think Mac Jones will play this year, but I don't think it'll happen until probably close to midseason.
Okay. I can see that being the case as well. Bill has never been one to have a quick hook. I mean, obviously he kept Brady in there for so long, but Brady also won. So we'll see how that plays out. Like I said, we're going to do our NFL preview here in the next week or so as we lead up to week 1. I cannot wait for that. NFL is back. We'll have our weekly picks going on again this year. You might even be able to battle along with us this year with our picks. We'll get something set up there as well. Let's jump over real quick before we head out to the NHL. Kind of a sad Well, it is a sad note that we're gonna wrap things up on. We had a couple of players in the NHL pass away the last couple of days. Hall of Famer Rod Gilbert, Ranger for 18 years, the goals and points leader for New York. He led Canada to the Summit Series victory over the Soviets in 1972. First number ever to be retired by the Rangers as well. He passed away at the age of 80. And I know, Scott, you are a big Rangers fan. I'm sure that Rod Gilbert has something in your memory.
Oh, yeah. And he's one of those guys that the Rangers always trotted out because, like you said, he was the first number retired and everything. Just kind of a legend in Rangers hockey. He was the guy that they trotted out for every old timers. Just anytime they trotted anybody out, he was always there.
Yeah, and that's everything I've read is that he was a diehard Rangers person, and he would do anything and everything for that organization, and Rangers fans absolutely loved him. Unfortunately, he passed away at the age of 80. And then the tragic one that we still haven't really heard much on as far as cause or anything like that is Jimmy Hayes, the 2008 draftee of the Toronto Maple Leafs, passed away at 31. Definitely way too young. Should not be passing away at that point in time. He made his debut in 2011 after being traded to Chicago. He played for Boston, Florida, and New Jersey. His younger brother, Kevin, plays for Philadelphia. It's one of those things. It doesn't seem like in his career that he was a guy that took a lot of punishment. I mean, you always think about CTE and things of that nature, but for all indications, it didn't seem like that was the way his career went. And it's still odd, though, that there's no real cause of death. He was found at his home today. He was a married father. So, I mean, obviously you never know what's going on in the head of anybody, even someone that is perceived to be happy. You hope it's nothing along those lines. You're hoping maybe it's some sort of medical issue that was undetermined at the time. But it's just sad that a guy at such a young age, at 31 years old, passes away unexpectedly. Yeah,
always sad, like you said, and then to have a young family and everything. Yeah, like you said, hopefully it's nothing. Hopefully it's just some kind of freak thing and there wasn't some other even darker side to it. But I'm sure that'll all come out in the next few days.
It very likely will. And, it's one of those conversations that, when you talk about CTE, not just in hockey, but you talk about it in football and other sports, it's something that we still haven't really totally been able to grasp at this point. I mean, obviously there's been movies, there's been, movements that have gone towards, protection and safety, but I still think we're at that point where we're still not even really sure what causes it, how to prevent it, how to treat it, how to make somebody's life better when we do know that they have it. It's definitely a fight and something that we have to continue to progress in. We would definitely encourage people to donate to the different research programs that go into concussions and CTE so that our athletes and maybe our friends and family don't have to go through something like this. I've got nieces and nephews that are playing sports right now that potentially want to play for a very long time. And God forbid something were to happen where they get multiple concussions. It's something that you wish doesn't happen, but let's find ways to make sure we can limit it as much as possible and treat it if that pops up as well.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is just trying to figure out how to treat it and limit it as much as possible, because it is going to happen, because it can happen so many different ways when you're playing a sport. And we saw it in the Cardinal game the other night. Catcher umpire CB Buckner, ball hits off Yadi's glove and smokes him right in the middle of his face mask, and he fell back. Yadi tried to catch him as he fell back. But, just that, you just never know, when something like that's going to happen.
Yeah, you really, really don't. And I'm going to put you on the spot right here. I know we haven't talked about it off air about this yet, but I know you were just a part of something really, really cool last week that we're going to be talking a lot about in the next couple of months. Just give us a quick preview of what you were a part of and any information you can give our listeners to right now before we really roll out the big thing.
Yeah. I was lucky. I got nominated to be an ambassador for the Real Men Wear Pink campaign for the American Cancer Society, and took part in a photo shoot last week, which was fun. Not totally out of my comfort zone, but it was definitely fun to do it. And I'm glad to be partnering with them. And the show's going to partner with them. We're going to do a lot of stuff with them, try to raise money. We'll be putting some stuff out here in the next couple of weeks as the campaign really kicks off into September, first part of October through the whole month of October. But we're going to try to get a kickstart on it here in the next week or so and start trying to raise some money and do everything we can to help bring awareness to cancer and breast cancer especially.
That we will. We love to do that kind of stuff. We've been able to do that the last couple of years. We just want to continue that process as well. And once again, it's not just about breast cancer, about any forms of cancer that are out there. We want to make sure that we help raise funds and commitments and knowledge about all of that. But this is going to be a really fun campaign. Honestly, Scott, I cannot wait to see the pictures.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous. We'll see what happens. I should be getting those in the next week or so. So we'll see how it goes. It was weird, posing and doing all that kind of stuff. It's just like I said, not really in my comfort zone kind of a thing. But it was a fun experience. So I'm glad I did it. And I'm happy that we're able to help and participate and do whatever we can, like you said, to bring awareness to cancer and breast cancer.
Very, very true. And yeah, I mean, we got pictures of us taken when we were in Kansas City, but it was us in our element. It wasn't us posing or anything like that. So yeah, definitely different when you're posing. And we definitely want to go back and thank everybody that was associated with the trip that we had last weekend in Kansas City, the Royals, the Negro League Baseball Museum, the Kansas City Royals Hall of Fame, Kurt Nelson, Dr. Doswell, Mike Claiborne, everybody that was a part of that. We had so much fun during that trip. You got a chance to see the interview on Saturday that we did, as well as the 2-part Hall of Fame tour as well. And we implore you, as we did in the video, get out there and see that Royals Hall of Fame, because it is an absolute gem.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you go check it out. Check out the Negro League Hall of Fame Museum as well. Just amazing. A lot of really cool stuff out there. So yeah, put those on your bucket list next time you make a trip out to the western part of the state for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, guys, thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute blast to be back live for you after the week off. We got so much more in store the next couple of weeks as we get ready for the NFL season. NHL training camp will be starting here very soon as well. We'll dive into the Blues schedule that was released as well. So we got plenty of stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks. So for Scott Tobin, I am Wags. Have a great night, and we'll see you guys later.
Hey, it's U-Man here from Casey. For all your sports news, catch the Toasted Tavern with Scott Tobin and the man called Wags, weeknights at 9 p.m. You can follow Toasted Tavern on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Let's get toasted.